يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان ومن يتبع خطوات الشيطان فإنه يأمر بالفحشاء والمنكر ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته ما زكى منكم من أحد أبدا ولكن الله يزكي من يشاء والله سميع عليم ولا يأتل أولو الفضل منكم والسعة أن يؤتوا أولي القربى والمساكين والمهاجرين في سبيل الله وليعفوا وليصفحوا ألا تحبون أن يغفر الله لكم والله غفور رحيم إن الذين يرمون المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات لعنوا في الدنيا والآخرة ولهم عذاب عظيم يوم تشهد عليهم ألسنتهم وأيديهم وأرجلهم بما كانوا يعملون يومئذ يوفيهم الله دينهم الحق ويعلمون أن الله هو الحق المبين الخبيثات للخبيثين والخبيثون للخبيثات والطيبات للطيبين والطيبون للطيبات أولئك مبرؤون مما يقولون لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So, welcome back everyone to our second session of our Surah Nur Ramadan series. Today we are going to be discussing a different topic, a very unique topic, inshallah. So let's begin, inshallah. My name is Medhiya Khan, by the way, and I'm from UKIM, Leicester. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا ربي زدني علما. So before I move ahead, I thought I would share a schedule of the topics that we are going to be discussing in this series. So the tilawah that we do in the beginning, we do it chronologically so that we complete the tilawah of Surah Nur by the end of our series. However, the topics may not necessarily coincide with them because this is a thematic study. So we are taking different themes from Surah Nur and we will be studying them, inshallah. So yesterday was the introduction and historical relevance. And then today we'll be doing the concept of civilization. And inshallah, the rest of the topics are listed below, which we will be doing, inshallah, day by day. So this is for the attendees who would like to know which topics we will be covering from next week. So today's topic, as I mentioned before, is about civilization. And moving on to a communal slide, the seed, which is our concept, our theme, is civilization. Now, and what is the soil? how a civilization molds and shapes our personal and societal beliefs. That would be our soil. And then after we plant the seed in the soil, we will experience growth. How do we follow a lifestyle centered on the Islamic civilization, embrace the collectivism taught by our religion, and in general become a stronger Islamic community? By understanding the differences between the Western and Islamic values and embracing the collectivism that our religion offers, and understanding the roles of an individual, the purpose of the family unit in Islam, inshallah, will we be able to attain growth. Now, when it comes to change, I won't be mentioning what change we will be experiencing right at this moment. I will reshare this slide at the end of our session, and I'll ask you sisters, the audience, to chip in and explain to me how growth will bring about a positive change. And inshallah, by the end of the session, everyone will be able to recognize this change and understand how to bring it about, inshallah. So let's begin. The principles of civilized society. Now, the rise and the development of civilizations does not follow a continuous pattern. It changes from simple to complex. In other words, we cannot find any definite reason for why a civilization arises and analyze it from a scientific or philosophical or sociological point of view. If civilizations were phenomena identifiable in specifications, identity, or reasons, there would never be so much debate among scientists now. What are the principles upon which the modern civilized society is made? A civilized society strives for establishment of democracy, fair state, rule of law, etc., etc. And there are some basic principles on which the civilization is based on. So what I'd like everyone to do is, you sisters, to use the chat box and chip in and explain what they believe that the society, the civilization actually is based on. What are the fundamentals of society? What constitutes the pillars of a modern civilized society? So if you could just use the chat box, sisters, and share with me what you believe to be the essential, basic, fundamental principles of a civilization. Okay, one sister said law and order. Yes, following the laws. Okay, alhamdulillah. Organization, technology. Okay, yes, mashallah, really good answers. Okay. Okay, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, good answers. Okay, so some of the ones that I came across were rights based on justice, which provide a man's social life with order and harmony. These rights are among the true ideals of life and can be generalized for all societies. And then discovering the best way to fight factors harmful to nature and mutinous men is one of the ideal elements of civilization in all human societies. After that, we get logical political management, right, which is an ideal element in every civilization. This can bring order and discipline among the members of society and help them develop in all aspects. Furthermore, we can discover and use technology necessary for fulfilling a man's need in life and making use of the human mind and natural resources in order to provide people with comfort. This is also one of the highest of civilization principles. However, we are going to be talking about a specific aspect of civilization today, and that is Western and Islamic civilizations. Now, why are we discussing Western civilization in the first place? Because many of the themes in this surah focus on social etiquettes. We had an overview yesterday about the kind of social etiquettes that are mentioned in this surah. And the reason for those etiquettes were to create social harmony. Some of these etiquettes may seem to clash with Western rules of social engagement. So in order to understand the heart of the matter, in order to be able to differentiate between these two seemingly opposing ways of living, we need to understand the difference between Islamic and Western values and what forms the basis of which civilization respectively. The Western civilization and culture is a dominant one at this point in time. And it is usually the dominant civilization that dictates the norms of society. So from the past 150 years approximately, the Muslims have taken on three views in particular about the West. Some people deem it to be the truth, accept it wholeheartedly, and believe in complete assimilation. Whereas some people partially accept Western values and try to keep Islamic principles in their life at least to a basic extent. Whereas there's a third category of people who reject Western values completely. However, none of the above three categories of people actually know why they choose to accept or reject Western values. The reason is that we don't know the fundamentals of Western or Islamic civilization. So, moving on to my question. What are the common topics of debate amongst Muslims when discussing the clash of Islamic and Western values? What do we discuss when we are debating this topic specifically? Can anyone please share in the chat box, please? Okay, modesty. That's a very hot topic. That's correct. Family values. Jazakallah, Dr. Batul. Okay, lifestyle, strength of the family. Okay, festivities such as weddings, rights of women. That's a very good answer, sister. Jazakallah. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, mashallah, mashallah, really good answers. So amongst, other than these, we have maybe perhaps clothing, alcoholism, immodesty, someone mentioned that, right? These are very important topics. However, civilization is not defined by these concepts. There are some fundamentals of civilization that we need to be able to understand and differentiate so that we can maybe understand what the point of this whole conversation is and maybe get a deeper understanding of it. So the first is ontology, right? Then there is the concept of knowledge, the concept of man, the concept of morality, and the theory of creation. These five are pretty much the crux of it. So moving on, the first thing is ontology, the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. So in brief, ontology is a branch of philosophy, a science of what is, of the kinds and structures of objects. So in simple terms, it seeks the classification and explanation of entities. Every society has a concept of God. Our concept of God is that we believe in one God, Allah, the creator of the universe. This concept of Tawheed governs our ways and customs. In Muslim countries, it governs the political and economic system somewhat. Because we are in need of Allah in every single aspect of our life, and we look towards Him, so our entire societal framework centers on the concept of Tawheed. Alhamdulillah. Now, what is the ontology of the Western civilization? Can anyone maybe share with me what they believe the ontology of the Western civilization is? Sisters, if you could just use the chat box. Inshallah, I'm going to try my best to engage as many sisters as possible today, right? So I'd like everyone to please be awake and participate as much as possible. So what do you sisters believe is the ontology of the Western civilization? What does the West believe is God? Small g, please. Okay, secularism, secular living, focusing on our own goals, freedom. Okay, mashallah, good answers. Mashallah, mashallah. I seem to see the same sisters answering over and over again. So I'd like more sisters to please contribute, not just the same ones. Jazakallah. Individualism, liberalism. Okay, mashallah, mashallah, really good answers. Okay. The crux of it is in science or matter, right? So basically, the answer is matter, and hence they associate those concepts to matter or science that we would normally associate with God. For example, we believe that Allah has always been and will always remain. The West believes that matter changes form but doesn't perish, which may be true, but it doesn't steer our beliefs. So this concept governs their framework. So moving on to the concept of knowledge. If I were to ask you what is the highest form of knowledge in our religion, then what would the answer be? Allah, correct, right? Allah provides the highest form of religion in the form of wahi or the Quran. Because it has not been written by man, and hence the divine nature of this word makes it the highest level of knowledge. And because Allah is all-knowing, ever-present, so this concept of wahi governs our life. We look towards the Quran for guidance in every aspect, be it worldly or religious. And we believe that our knowledge may be deficient, but the knowledge gained from the Quran can never be. So because of it, because it has been given by Allah. Now, what does the West believe to be the highest source of knowledge, right? Now we're talking from a more of a godless perspective here, right? Because society has become more and more godless. So we're talking from a godless perspective here. Okay, science and explanation, right? But what is the source of this science, this medicine, this psychology? We're all sharing science or branches of science here. What is the source of all of this, right? Attaining degrees, okay. It's basically our intellect, man's intellect, or man's reasoning. It is believed to be the ultimate form of knowledge. So man's mind governs the Western civilization's framework, and it regulates all aspects of it. Right? Moving on to the concept of man, what defines a man? Our society believes that a man is a combination of a few things: the soul, the mind, the body, the consciousness. The West, however, claims man to be a political animal, economic animal, biological reality, just an offshoot of the animal kingdom. And this affects the entire civilizational framework. It's Aristotle that said, at his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst. So we basically are told from the beginning that man is just an offshoot of an animal species, Homo sapiens, and that's why we have these animalistic desires, etc., etc. And some people believe that's why we should give in to these animalistic desires, right? So the concept of morality. Islam believes that morality is absolute and not relative. What does that mean? The code of morality can never change. The halal will always remain halal and the haram will always remain haram. So whatever the Quran has told us about the halal and haram, it will remain so until the end. We are given very clear guidelines about this. And we also know that these guidelines are eternal. They will not change no matter how much society tells us to. However, the modern Western civilization claims our morality to be relative, not absolute, and morality changes with the changing social and political conditions. So it's very, very ambiguous and it's very, very fluid. The ethical norms change according to man's status or the evolution of knowledge. Now, can anyone share certain behaviors or actions or even rights that were frowned upon or considered a sin or a crime in the past, but are socially acceptable today? Right now, again, we're talking from a Western point of view. What the West believed to be unacceptable before, but is now accepted. Okay, abortion, zina, very good answer, mashallah. Children out of wedlock, yes. So women particularly were the victims of a social boycott and sometimes were charged in court if they ever had children out of wedlock. Homosexuality, okay, interracial marriages, very good answer. Interracial marriages were a crime once upon a time. Transgenderism, women's rights, yes, yes, mashallah sister, very nice. Okay, intimacy. Prostitution, yes, that was once upon a time a crime. A person who was involved in prostitution would be charged in court. Mental health, mashallah, mashallah. Such great answers, sisters. Jazakallah for contributing. Thank you. So the Western society does not have a barometer for morality. What was once considered a crime or a sin or socially unacceptable is now considered completely normal because the morality of society keeps on changing. It's a fluid concept, changing over time. And this concept of morality regulates the Western lifestyle. So whenever the barometer for morality changes, so does the lifestyle change according to it. Whereas in Islam, what was unacceptable 1400 years ago is still unacceptable today. Zina was haram 1400 years ago, and it's still haram today, right? Similarly, what were the answers that we had? Mashallah, we had such great answers. Women were given certain rights 1400 years ago, and they still retain the same rights. However, if we look at the Western civilization 1400 years ago and we compare it to it now, we see a complete transformation, a complete difference, right? Whether it be positive or negative, that's up for debate. But there's an enormous amount of difference between what the West was 1400 or so years ago and what it is now, whereas the Islamic guidelines for us remain the same, alhamdulillah. So moving on, we have our fifth topic, which is the theory of creation. And we have in the Quran, إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. Verily his command when he intends a thing is only that he says to it be and it is. So as a human, we need to create something. We go through a process of steps, right? Creating a rough design on paper, then gathering materials, then going through the process of building the thing, going through the trials and errors. But Allah doesn't need to go through this. He just said be, and it was, and it's mentioned in the Quran as well. However, what is it that the West believe in as which is a replacement for the theory of creation? Can anyone tell me, please? What's the West's answer to the theory of creation? Evolution. Yes, correct. Right? Right. So how did the universe come into being if there was no God? The Big Bang. Yes, that's correct. So the Big Bang theory is their answer for the theory of creation of the universe. So I'm talking about the scientific concept here, sisters, not the TV show, okay? So a scientific explanation for the origin and the evolution of the universe. According to this theory, the universe began as a singularity, an infinitely hot and dense point in space-time, approximately 13.8 billion years ago. The singularity then began to rapidly expand and cool, eventually forming the vast and complex universe that we observe today. A condensed form of matter that, under a set of extremely unique circumstances, exploded and led to the formation of the universe. However, who or what caused the Big Bang? The Big Bang theory itself does not even attempt to explain the origin of the universe or the conditions that led to the singularity from which it emerged. Rather, it describes the evolution of the universe from a fraction of a second after the Big Bang. So what happened before that second and who or what caused it to occur, they don't have an answer, right? Similarly, what about how man was created, right? We believe in the theory of special creation, that man was created by Allah, and that is how Adam and Hawa alayhi salam came into being and mankind expanded from them. However, what does the West say about the evolution or the conception of man? Right, a sister has already answered. MashaAllah, sister, you're very, very proactive. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Darwin had the theory, right? It was Darwinism, right? The theory of evolution. So this is a Western concept, Darwinism. It proposes that all living organisms are related through common ancestry and the diversity of life on Earth is the result of a process of descent with modification. Are the fundamentals of Western civilization framework compatible with the Islamic civilizational framework? Now that we've gone through the fundamentals of civilization, it should be very clear to us that absolutely not. Our concept of God, our concept of morality, of knowledge, of the origins of man, all of these concepts are at odds with the Western concepts. They are not compatible. So we need to understand the fundamentals and we need to understand the basis of these civilizations before attempting to have a discussion on the Islamic ethos or morality, inshallah. Right, so what we need to do now is we need to demystify Western values. So what has the modern world achieved? Our modern world, the ruling class of developed nations are usually non-Muslim. They cite many, many achievements like reaching the moon, launching AI platforms like ChatGPT, discovering dark matter, advances in quantum physics, right? We have driverless cars now. However, what has the common man benefited from this? Have we actually, the common man actually benefited from these discoveries or these things that define progress? So progress, and we need to understand that progress and development are two different things. Progress is a subset, implies moving forward toward a particular development, whereas development is more all-encompassing. So progress is launching the Hubble telescope. Development is discovering the cure to smallpox. Progress is the invention of VR headsets, whereas development would be eradicating poverty. So these two, progress and development, there are two very different things. What we need to do is we need to demystify Western achievements. So can anyone tell me what the literacy rate of the UK is currently? What's the UK's literacy rate? If someone could share in the chat box, please. Okay. 76, bit higher. 85. a bit more higher than that. Okay. Yeah, around, yeah. So it's around 99%. Yeah, Sister Zabine has the closest guess. So, oh, Sister Misbah also. Sister Misbah, you hit the nail on the head. 99%, right? So that is the literacy rate. However, the question is, have people become more humane? I mean, we have an amazingly high literacy rate, 99%, but has the society in general in the UK become more humane? Have we seen maybe a drop in crimes, right? Have we seen an increase in kindness amongst people? No, absolutely not, right? What about the criminal justice system? Does anyone know the ranking of the criminal justice system of the UK from 0 to 1, 0 being no stopping crime and 1 being 100% abolishment of crime? So does anyone know what the ranking is from between 0 and 1? So the ranking would be somewhere between 0 and 1, note point something something, right? So can anyone maybe take a guess how strong our criminal justice system is? Right? No, it's not as bad as 0, sister. Yes, I know. It seems very sordid, but no, it's not as bad as that. Right. 0.1, 0.5, 0.9. Okay, good guesses, mashallah, good guesses, reasonable guesses. 0.6. Sister Misbah, mashallah, I think you read a lot of the news because your answers are spot on. So the criminal justice system is basically ranks 0.74 on the rule of law index, which, by the way, is fairly strong, right? It's quite strong. However, crime is still very much rampant. Crime hasn't been vanquished. So the West has also given women freedom. When I say freedom, it's in quotation marks. Freedom apparently freed her from the prison of homes and marriages and restricting clothing. Yet the question is, are women happy? Have they gained respect or honor or protection? No, absolutely not. We are not anywhere close to respected or dignified in the society. We are unsafe and we are unsecure, and we do not have the rights that Allah has granted us. We haven't gained any of those rights. We are not happy. So women apparently have been liberated, but we don't feel liberated, do we? So we need to demystify the achievements of the West and understand what constitutes progress and what constitutes development. How much have we actually done in the ways of development? Yes, we tout progress. We mention so many, facts and figures and all that. But when it comes to actual development, well, the story is different. So can anyone answer this question? When were women in England legally allowed to enter contracts and own property? What year did the legal system finally give women this right? 1950? No, not as recent as that. 1926? Okay, close, sister, but still not there. Any other guesses? 1914, 1883. Sister Misbah, mashallah, mashallah. Again, your answer is the closest. So, okay, Sister Shama Siddiqui, yes, your answer is correct. So it's basically, let me just give you a thumbs up, mashallah, for a job well done. 1870. 1870 is the year. It was not until the late 1870s onwards in England and even later elsewhere in Europe that married women achieved the right to enter contracts and own property, right? Whereas Islam gave the women this right 1400 years ago. So what we are seeing in reality are soaring crime rates, juvenile delinquencies, increased suicide rates, severe mental health issues, a breakdown in the institution of marriage. We are experiencing lives filled with worries and tensions and misery as a result of the so-called progress. And all this comes from leaving the path set by the Quran. All laws made by the human intellect have failed, and only the laws made by Allah will give everyone their due rights. Now, now let's contrast what we discussed above with Islamic values. It grants women divinely sanctioned inheritance, property, social and marriage rights, including the right to reject the terms of a proposal and to initiate divorce. Islam gave women a variety of rights 1400 years ago that were not even acknowledged in Western countries until the 17th century. A Muslim woman is not required to change her maiden name on marriage. She retains her own name, a symbolic demonstration of the fact that even on marriage, Islam recognizes her independent legal personality, something that the West has not even achieved to this day. Right? Several other rights, but I will skip through them right now, inshallah, and we can discuss them at a later time. Right? So now we're going to move on to the purpose of the family unit. So Islam affirms the equality of man and women, excuse me, as human beings. However, this does not entail non-differentiation of the respective roles and functions in society. So can anyone tell me, according to Islam, what are the primary role of a woman? And what are the primary roles and responsibilities of a man? We're talking about primary roles. The secondary roles come after that. So if everybody could just share in the chat box. Okay. So as a mother, as a nurturer, mashallah, as a provider, okay. Okay, good answers. Looking after the home, okay. What about the roles and responsibilities of a man? Can anyone share the answer, please? As a provider. Yes, so man is the provider and a woman is the nurturer. Provider for the family, protector. Yes, he is the qawwam, he is the protector, the leader. Okay, good. So, mashallah, good answers. The primary responsibility of a woman is to concentrate on the home and the family and all that is required to operate and develop these institutions, right? She too has certain social responsibilities, rights, and duties, but her primary concern is the family. And this is a functional distribution of roles and activities and is regarded as essential for the proper functioning of different institutions of society, for its moral and social health and well-being. The responsibility for earning a living rests with the husband, while that of proper education, training, and upbringing of children, so basically we're talking about tarbiyah, it rests with the wife. Once the tarbiyah part is done, and by done I mean that she feels like she is fulfilling her responsibility of tarbiyah, then she can focus on secondary issues, like secondary things like, you know, working or contributing to society or volunteering, etc., etc. However, she should not forget her primary role, which is tarbiyah of the children. That is literally the only responsibility she has. Right? If someone wants to actually learn more about the roles and responsibilities of the wife and the husband, then Sheikh Akram Nadwi of Cambridge has some very good mashallah lectures on this, so you can maybe look them up. And Sheikh Akram Nadwi used to say that anyone who listens to my lectures on the roles and responsibilities of a husband and wife, so after the lecture, the women, they will be my complete fans, they love me, and the men will really hate me because what he the way he conveys is that the woman's only responsibility is tarbiyah, and the man has several other on his head. So if anyone wants to get, you know, maybe learn more about this, then yes, I would recommend his lectures. Okay, so moving on. The institution of family plays a very important part in Muslim society. It's a basic unit of society that and is organized in such a way that it operates as a society in miniature. So it's basically every family is like a mini society in itself. About 1/3 of the ahkam, the commands in the Quran, relate to the family and its proper regulation. The network of rights and obligations that provides the basis of family life aims at producing those attitudes and behavior patterns that Islam wants to foster in the individual and in society. A new balance has been established in the roles and relationships that exist between men and women, between young and old, between near relatives and distant kith and kin, between freedom and discipline, between individual discretion and social control. However, there is a huge threat to this family unit, and that is the modern concept of individualism. Now, before I move on, can anyone please share in the chat box what they believe individualism means? Can anyone tell me, please? Interests of the individual, okay. Me, myself, and I. Yes, that is correct. Every person for themselves, being independent. Nuclear. Okay, that's a good answer. All right, prioritizing our own needs over the group. Yes, a selfish society. Mashallah, mashallah. Good answers. So individualism is the idea that the freedom of thought and action for each person is the most important quality of society rather than a shared effort and responsibility. We realize that although there are aspects of individualism which can be beneficial, this way of thinking in general steers us towards selfishness, greed, and the me, myself, and I mentality that someone actually shared in the chat box. Me, myself, and I. This is the mentality that individualism fosters. This has led to a moral decline, a short-sightedness, and the devaluation of family values. And all of these factors lead to things like loneliness, the breakup of family homes, depression, and ultimately, unfortunately, in some cases, suicide. Now, the opposite of individualism is collectivism. And this is even mentioned in the Quran. وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا وَالدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَةً مِّمَّا أُوتُوا وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Those who established a community center and embraced the faith before the arrival of the immigrants love those who have come to their town. They are not jealous of what is given to the immigrants. They give preference to them over themselves, even concerning the things that they themselves urgently need. Whoever controls his greed will have everlasting happiness. And this is from Surah Hashr. Now, this is the quality of sacrifice to the utmost degree. A practice which is not easy to find in current times. What does this mean? It means that the one in need of something, not want, but need. For example, you need this element to survive, such as food, water, and so on, gives others preference. So they also are in need of such essentials. Right now, I'm going to relate a hadith on this topic, and I'll try and make it quick. A man came to the Prophet. The Prophet ﷺ sent a messenger to his wives to bring something for that man to eat, but they said they had nothing except water. So the Prophet asked the companions who will take this person or entertain them as a guest. So an Ansari man stood up and came forward and said, "I will do it." So he took the guest home to his wife, and he said to his wife, "Entertain generously the guest of Allah's messenger." However, she informed him, "We have got nothing except the meals of my children." So he said to her, "Prepare your meal, light your lamp, and let the children sleep if they ask for supper." So she prepared the meal, lighted her lamp, and then the children went to bed hungry, basically. She made them sleep. Then what she did after that was she stood up pretending to mend her lamp, but then she on purpose turned the lamp off. She's like, "Oops, the lamp's not working, sorry." Why did she do that? Now, if someone says, "I have only enough to feed the children," those are probably going to be very small-sized, child-sized portions. And those portions will not be enough to feed the same amount of adults, right? So the amount of food that they had was very little, and they didn't want the guests to go hungry. So what she did was she pretended that the lamp wasn't working, and she deliberately turned it off. In the morning, and then both of them pretended to eat with the guest, but they really went to bed hungry. So the guest was eating, they were sitting next to the guest, they were pretending to eat, but in reality they weren't eating, so that the guest would have enough to eat. In the morning, the Ansari went to Allah's Messenger, sallallahu and said, who said to him, "Tonight Allah laughed or wondered at your action." Right? Allah loved this act of theirs. And then Allah revealed in the Quran, the ayah above, "But give them immigrants preference over themselves, even though they are in need of that, and whoever is saved from the covetousness, such as are they who will be successful." Right? So this hadith is from Bukhari. So we know that they had enough food for his wife's children. However, they did not apologize to their guest and tell them that they could not host him. The wife also did not disobey her husband when he prioritized the guest over her children. Rather, she obeyed him in this noble opportunity, which caused both of them to acquire great honor in the sight of Allah. And sisters, look at how special this honor was. They were honored to such an extent that Allah laughed or wondered in a manner that suits Allah at their action. And he revealed these verses. And this verse has been recited by billions of people over time, starting from more than 1400 years ago. And it will continue to be recited for generations to come. Such an amazing, amazing honor. So one can only wonder how much sadqa jariyah they have obtained through their act of generosity. And this is a great reward given for such a high level of sacrifice. Now, my question to everyone is, Because individualism has manifested itself in society now, this element of sacrifice, which we just discussed in the Hadith, it's not seen anymore. This leads to devastating consequences. So how is individualism leading to the harming of the family unit? Think of the effects on the children, on the effects on the elderly, how this sort of mentality is really contributing to, it's really damaging to the family unit. So can anyone please share the answer in the chat box? Okay, so infights in the family, okay. There's no unity, there's discord, loneliness, yes, mashallah, good answer. Divorce between spouses because they disagree on roles. Mashallah, very good answer, Dr. Batul. We only think of ourselves and not others around us. It's a lack of unity with the household. There's no tolerance. Very good answer. Children are left unsupervised and the elderly are left alone. Okay. No respect for Islamic values regards to respecting the elders. Children's tarbiyah is ignored. Mashallah, mashallah. Amazing answer. It's really good. Mashallah, sisters are amazing today. Now, one of the consequences is this epidemic of loneliness that we are seeing worldwide, not just in the UK. However, I have taken these details from the UK's government website, and they're so, so sad. So in 2018, the UK government launched its first loneliness strategy, a proper, formal, state-level strategy to tackle loneliness. There's a Department of Loneliness, basically. And basically, the reason for that was that 1.4 million older people in the UK are often lonely. Up to a fifth of all UK adults feel lonely most or all of the time. And this leads to consequences which are bad for the health, such as obesity or smoking. It's also linked with other things like heart disease, strokes, and Alzheimer's disease. Yes, loneliness can lead to heart disease or strokes, if there's evidence of that. It's also linked, this was actually something that I found so strange and so sad. A Dutch supermarket recently introduced a unique slow checkout lane for lonely seniors who want to have a chat with the cashier. So it's basically a slow checkout lane, so we have a fast lane, right? Where we go to supermarket and we have our devices and we use the fast lane if we want to, leave quickly. They introduced a slow lane and the cashiers there, they sit and they chat with the elderly who come to talk to them, because unfortunately, this was another news article published a few years ago. Some of the elderly in our society, the only chance they get to talk to another human is when they go shopping and when they have a chat with the cashier. This is so sad and so unnatural if you think about it. And this is also from the government's website. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. However, it's available if anyone wants to go check. It's the Let's Talk Loneliness campaign that the government launched. Look at the advice given by the government for anyone who wants to take part in this campaign. Check in with a neighbor, keep in touch with everyone, contact organizations, right, who can offer support, set a routine, right, with regular tasks or by volunteering, help out through volunteering with local groups. Does this sound Islamic to all of you? I mean, it seems like it's literally taken from commandments of the Quran. Keep in touch with family and friends. It seems like someone read the Sharia and just, took these certain points and put them here. It sounds so Islamic, but the fact that the government has to launch an entire loneliness campaign, has to ask people to please check in with your neighbors, to keep in touch with family and friends and neighbors, to actually advise people to do that, something which should come naturally to us as a society. It shows how much society has been affected by this concept of individualism and how selfish people have become in general. The fact that elderly have no place to go to, they have no one to talk to generally. They have literally the only time they talk to people is when they go shopping. This is such a sad state of affairs, and it gives us something to think about. This need for companionship, it's everywhere. It's for the self. We have our psychological needs for companionship. We have our basic needs. We have societal needs, right? With this pyramid, it shows how these needs are fulfilled. There's a self-actualization, achieving one's potential. Then there's the psychological needs where we feel the need of accomplishment or prestige. And we have these intimate relationships with our friends and our family. And then there's the basic needs that this companionship fulfills, like security and safety and food and water and warmth and rest. So this pyramid, it shows you how the element of companionship fulfills different needs on a different level. And from the mother, from day one, we can see that we are not on this earth alone. We have this whole network of people, right? From the mother, the father, we have a family to take care of us, and we have people in shops, we have nurseries, schools, mosques, clubs, universities, these places where people go to socialize and educate themselves. We have, if we, for example, hurt ourselves, then we get an ambulance, right? Who we are looking after, where we are looked after by people. We don't stay laying in the street until we die. We have someone to come and take us to the hospital. So from the very beginning, we have companionship. We are not self-sufficient. And even when we die, we'll have someone to bury us. So we need to recognize that each and every person that comes into our life is important. There's a hadith by the Prophet ﷺ. It was narrated from Abu Hurairah that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, Jibreel kept enjoining good treatment of neighbors until I thought he would make neighbors heirs. Like he would give neighbors part of the inheritance. That is how much the neighbors are valued in Islam. Now, I want everyone to be honest with me. How many of the people attending today know their neighbors by name? How many of you know, maybe if we take 3 or 4 houses to your right and 3 or 4 houses to your left, do you know those people by name? Not just the main person, but also members of their family. How about that? Do you know the entire families by name? Okay, mashallah. Really, really good answers, mashallah, right? However, there are situations that I've read in different groups and etc., where people who have been living in the same place for years and don't know their neighbors. Same neighbors for 36 years. Mashallah. Mashallah. Really, really good. So mashallah, really encouraging responses, sisters. Mashallah. Really happy. Right? So this is unfortunately, alhamdulillah, our faith tells us that we need to value our neighbors. However, society in general has become so individualistic that neighbors don't really have that sort of relationship between each other anymore. Then similarly, we have these we've been taught to value our parents as well. It's in a hadith that Abdullah ibn Amr reported that a person came to Allah's Prophet ﷺ and sought permission to participate in jihad. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, "Are your parents living? Are they alive?" And he said yes. So then the Prophet ﷺ said, you should put in your best efforts in their service. And this hadith has been narrated in Muslim. And can anyone imagine a bigger honor than participating in jihad, in going to fight in the way of Allah? Prophet ﷺ actually gave us the answer that there's a higher reward in taking care of our parents. However, what we see nowadays in society is that the elderly, even if they're living, okay, alhamdulillah, most Muslims don't put their elderly in elderly care facilities. Most of us keep our elders with us at home and we take care of them. We try our best, right, as much as possible. However, even when the elderly are living with us at home, how many of us take the time and give them attention and sit down and talk to them, right? The elderly, and they're very lonely because they've reached a point in life where there's not much they can do physically except maybe sit and chat with people. So how many of us actively take the time out to sit down with our elderly and talk to them, or call the elderly people in our family and just have a chat with them? I know someone who actually had a schedule for the month prepared where she would call one different relative every single day. She had lots of relatives, mashallah. So she would call one different relative every single day just so she could kind of fulfill the rights of relatives. But how many of us do that? Just take the time to call the elderly, because the elderly are the loneliest. That's what we've just been discussing. The elderly people in our families, they're the loneliest people in our families as well. Similarly, Similarly, we have rights on the believers as well. The Prophet ﷺ said, a faithful believer to a faithful believer is like bricks of a wall enforcing each other. We've mentioned this hadith yesterday as well. This hadith is in Bukhari. How much of a believer shores up another believer, right? How much we are meant to support each other as a community, as a society, right? But unfortunately, what we see nowadays is not very well, let's just say it's not a very hopeful picture, right? We have so many Muslim brothers and sisters suffering around the world. And mashallah, the Muslim community is amazing in sending aid. But what about support in other terms, not just aid, not just financial aid, right? Going there and helping them out, providing them refuge, or fostering their children, fostering the orphans that come from the Muslim lands. We have so many coming in from Syria for the past so many years, but they don't, Muslim families, unfortunately, they don't take them in, right? So this is a problem as well. So before I conclude this session, what I want everyone to do is go back. We're going to go back to our communal slide where we talk about the soil, the seed, and the growth and the change. And now I want everyone to please participate here. If you want to unmute your mic, you can. I'll ask the one of the people from the IT department to please see if people can unmute their mic. And please tell me how this seed, this concept of civilization, Islamic civilization, can bring about a positive change. How do we grow this concept, and how do we bring about a positive change on our personal level, on a family level, and on a community level? You can also use the chat box, sisters, if you want. I did say I would ask everyone to contribute at the end and see, and kind of we'll go through what we learned today. And I want everyone to please see if they can provide me an answer about how the concepts of Islamic civilization can be used to bring about a positive change in society. We've highlighted the ills of society, but how do we go about bringing a change in the society? Okay, if you teach your kids that strangers look after you better, they will shove you in a home when you're old. Okay. So we need to change our behaviors. Doing activities together as a family and also community events. Yes, so this can help strengthen the family unit as well as the sense of community. We have to learn to live by Islamic values so our children can learn from our actions, and we have to lead by example. MashaAllah, very good answer, Sister Shema. Islamic role model in a holistic way, okay? Our attitude towards the family, listening to our children, okay, mashallah. What we want our kids to be, we have to be first as adults. Yes, we need to model the behavior. We need to be the change. You know, we need to start the change, and the kids will learn from us, inshallah, but we can't expect our kids to be different and to grow up to be model Islamic citizens when we ourselves are not doing that. So the change starts with us, sisters. Help your neighbors and show them our akhlaq. Answer according to Islam. Gets kids involved in our activities, mashallah, mashallah. And units of Muslim families will come, okay? Islam is not a religion, but a way of life, and it suits all. Mashallah, mashallah. Good answers. Sisters who are new to UKIM, do you know that UKIM has so many community projects that we launch, and the whole purpose of this is to strengthen the community and to maybe have a good impact on society, right? We have our dawah projects. We get a special task every month. Sorry, not every month. We get a special task during the month of Ramadan, as well as different times of the year, where we are told to go out into the community, to appreciate our workers, to appreciate our neighbors, to give them presents. And I find these tasks such a blessing, because if someone is an introvert, like I'm an introvert, I find it difficult to maybe approach new people. So when I'm already given the task at hand, so okay, just go buy maybe a plant and give it to them as a present, it makes my job a lot easier. But also it also strengthens my relationship with my neighbors as well. Now I have 5 minutes. I wasn't going to share this, but I actually learned this lesson the hard way, the way the epidemic of loneliness that I mentioned. It's also it's really the way it's impacted the elderly. I really learned a hard lesson about this when a few years ago one of my next door neighbors actually took his own life. And it turned out later on that he was suffering from depression, even though he hadn't actually talked to anyone or made that depression, he had masked it in a very good way, so nobody was able to realize. It was only after his passing that everyone realized that he had been very lonely, he had been very depressed, and the depression had led to suicidal thoughts, and then eventually he had taken his own life. He was a non-Muslim neighbor of mine, a very lovely person, and to this day, it stays with me, the fact that this was a person in need, and as a community, we failed him. We weren't able to recognize his silent cries for help. So it was a hard lesson learned, but it also taught me to be extra caring for my neighbors. And as I mentioned, the Dawah projects, the different projects that UKM runs and it asks us to participate in, it really helps kind of foster a really good relationship with our neighbors. Similarly, the I Care project that UKM runs, it helps strengthen the community by helping the households in our communities that are maybe suffering from food poverty. So we have different food hubs run by iCare, run by different departments, different branches of UKIM, and they help provide food to the households that might be struggling. So this is also another effort by UKIM to strengthen the community and to maybe help us be more caring Muslims, right? So we moving on to our conclusion. So what do we need to do as a person ourselves? We need to strengthen our sense of community, and we need to be ready to sacrifice the most important thing to us. And it's not money, it's not resources, it's time. Time is really the most important thing. And this is the thing that people are least willing to sacrifice, because it's like I mentioned, it's a rat race, right? Everyone's doing their own thing, everyone's busy with their own lives, and no one is willing. I mean, if you maybe ask someone to donate something to charity, right? What happens is that people usually are happy to lend their money, right? To give their money, to give £5, £10, whatever, to a certain cause. But if you go and ask people to give us their time, right, to please come and volunteer for certain cause, we won't find many people who are willing to do that. So this is the thing that we need to sacrifice. We need to take the time out to call people, to get in touch with people, to talk to our parents, to talk to our elderly relatives, to sacrifice the time for the therapy of our children. We need to also exercise patience because it's not going to be easy, right? And then we also need to seek reward only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only him. Because if we do any of these things with the expectation of getting maybe some sort of gratitude or some sort of reward from the people, then we haven't made the correct intention. The intention is only going to be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. So before I move on, I'd like to open the floor for questions or comments, anything of that sort. May I ask the IT team to please enable people to unmute their mic and maybe share their thoughts, inshallah.
Sister
Jazakallah
Sadia
khair.
Ahmed.
Yes,
Yes,
Assalamu
sister.
alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So
Yes.
Jazakallah khair, Madiha, for another brilliant session. And I think the picture which has come up after the session is so clear that subhanallah, if we just relate to the name of the surah, it has given us so much light to see far and wide, and how Quranic knowledge as well as the Islamic civilization values, they will pave the way of light that we are actually finding it really, really deficient in the society we are living in. Another thing, when we were discussing how we can do many things in UKIM sisters, projects, this thought came to my mind, so I thought I'll just share with our fellow sisters that we are living in a time that, as Madiha has told us, living in a loneliness crisis, and how other things also deteriorating one by one. So one thing is, there is even more need for us, being Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, to do our witness onto the mankind. And number two, it is also far easy as well. When there is pitch darkness, even a small dot of light would also go off a long way. So that means even our smaller efforts done together collectively, inshallah, will make a mark, and inshallah will be a source of our light in this dunya and the hereafter. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah Dr. Sadia. Thank you so much. Eloquent as always. Would anyone else like to maybe contribute something or maybe ask a question? I'll give it a minute more, inshallah. Sister, you can raise your hand if you want and unmute yourself. Okay, mashallah. Seems like no one has any questions today, so we're going to move on. And Jazakallah, sisters. Okay, so how can we get involved in some of the projects UCAM offers? Sister Nabila is asking. Sister Nabila, UCAM is, mashallah, there's so many projects. So the easiest thing for you to be doing, sister, is to maybe contact the branch which is closest to you and contact the branch leader, and she will inshallah guide you better as to where you can be involved in. We always need people. We always need human resource. In fact, we're always short. Like if we ever attend the UCAM branch meeting, one of the things on the agenda is, oh, we need more people. We need more people to come forward, to volunteer, to maybe run this department, to maybe run that. So it's always like that because, mashallah, the work is never ending, and we never have enough people. Subhanallah, it's just the nature of the work. So if you check out the UKIM website, you'll get a list of the branches that are which branches are available in which city, and then you can contact whichever branch is closest to you, and inshallah the branch leader will guide you better. There are several projects that the UCAM is running as an organization, and we have more than, I think, 52 branches all over the UK. So inshallah, you will be able to get in touch with someone close to you. Okay, Jazakallah, are there any other questions? Okay, if not, then we'll move ahead, inshallah. We'll just go on to our appeal of the day. So as I mentioned, the different projects, one of the projects that UKIM is running for the month of Ramadan is Ramadan and Eid hampers for foster children in care. And we are looking to raise £15,000 to gift a Ramadan and Eid pack to Muslim children in foster care. Remember, I mentioned there are several Muslim children in foster care, and it's a bit of a sad time for them because they don't have anyone to give them a present. So UKIM has started this initiative to provide them with Eid hampers, something to kind of make their day, you know, when Eid comes around. They don't really cost that much, so I would really like sisters to please donate as much as possible. It's only £25 per pack, but just imagine the smiles on the children's faces when they receive a hamper, a huge hamper of presents on the day of Eid, and so you know Allah Ta'ala will inshallah reward you greatly for it. So the details are on the poster where you can donate, and you can just you can just add a reference of Ramadan or Eid hampers, and inshallah it will be it will go to the right place. This project has been initiated by the eye care department of UKIM, which is responsible for local projects like these. Our second appeal of the day is again another IK project, which is the UKIM branch appeal. So I'm just going to read it out for everyone. We have 14 million people, including 4.5 million children living in poverty in the UK. So UK Islamic Mission distributes food parcels to families in need in the UK, helping those who are in the most desperate circumstances. So when you think of families living in poverty, the UK isn't necessarily the first country that comes to mind, but this is a major crisis that is happening on our doorstep. Sisters, with the cost of living crisis, even families who didn't need to rely on these things before, they do now. Families are really struggling to survive. So anything that you donate will make a great difference, even if it's a single pound. The different packs and the different food packs that have been arranged by UKIM are the hygiene pack, essential hygiene pack, which is for £30. Then they have a food pack for one person, which is £30. There's a cold survival kit, which helps them survive the winter months. This is especially good, especially useful for people who are homeless. And there's also the family food pack, which is also £100. So the food pack is enough to provide for a family for one entire month. So I would again really I would appeal to my sisters to please donate as much as possible in this blessed month, and inshallah gain the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Furthermore, I'd like everyone to please follow us on social media. We have our Facebook page. We are also on Instagram and YouTube. And all of the national sessions are also uploaded on our YouTube channel. Sisters, do look into it and do please follow us on social media so you can get the latest news and updates and also the projects that UKIM is running. So last but not the least, let's end it with our dua. And the dua I'm going to be making today is for the dua that I mentioned in the Quran, for the community, for the family, for the children, something to strengthen our community, and also to ask Allah for a for good offsprings. So والذين يقولون ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. Our Lord, bestow on us from our wives and our offsprings who will be the comfort of our eyes, and make us leaders for the muttaqun. We also have another dua from the Quran. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. Oh my Lord, make me one who performs as-salat, iqamat as-salat, and also from my offspring, our Lord, and accept my invocation. Our Lord, forgive me and my parents and all the believers on the day when the reckoning will be established. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.